What's going on, guys? Welcome to week 9 of the Mark and Graham podcast. I know it's been a minute. I definitely missed it. I'm glad to be back. We're coming at you with hotter takes. It's been a minute. We've been doing work, we've been at school, but we're here now. We're back, week 9. It's been crazy. And Mark, I'm ready to get back to it, man.
Yeah, for sure. It's good to finally be back on air. Hear from Graham. I mean, a lot has gone down in the sports world since the last time we were on, and I can't wait to disagree with everything Logan has to say about the past 3 weeks of sports. Um, yeah, last time we talked to you guys, we did some fun things. We talked a lot of football. Daniel Jones had just had his debut. We kind of gave him grades on that performance, and I would say since that debut, he's gone down a little bit downhill since then. So it's good to see as an Eagles fan, even though our season has also been going downhill. We talked Jalen Ramsey, who Graham predicted would be on the Eagles, and since then he has made a big move. He has joined the Los Angeles Rams, who we will talk about later on, has been one of the biggest disappointments in the NFL so far. We did an odd man out where that was a lot of fun. We came up with future 30 for 30 ideas. Loved doing that one. Go take a listen if you didn't catch that. We did top 10 NBA players looking towards the NBA season that started last night and the night before. And then we wrapped it up with our Mark and Graham of the day, just like we do every single episode. And we're going to be doing that today as well.
So yeah, we're gonna start with our clown of the day, and I'll start first. If it weren't for this person, my clown would be Doug Peterson because of how much smack he talked. And he lost 33 to what, 3? Was it? Something like that. The Eagles got smacked by the Cowboys. But my clown of the day definitely goes to Sam Darnold. Um, I don't know what happened, man. They were so sound against Dallas. And they came out and pissed the bed, for lack of better terms. Sam Darnold was seeing ghosts, and they had him mic'd up when he said that. So that doesn't look too good. But Bill Belichick literally tore his offense apart. His first 5 drives, 4 of them ended in turnovers. That's why Sam Darnold's my clown of the day. Mark?
Well, just based off of that, I don't know if you remember a couple of years back, one of the most famous games we've ever gotten the opportunity to watch was a Monday Night Football game against the Patriots, the same way it was on Monday night. And the Jets' first round pick from USC, Mark Sanchez, fumbled the ball right into his center's butt, the butt fumble as we all know it today. And that ended Mark Sanchez's career. Sam Darnold Monday night looked very similar. It was god awful. He couldn't find a soul out there on the field. Said he saw ghosts after the game. It was just brutal. But I also got to give him some credit to the fact that the Patriots defense this season is playing better than I've ever seen any defense play in my life. Like, this team is ridiculous. They are so sound defensively. They have 0 flaws. I saw a statistic that their offense had never taken the field so far this season. Tom Brady never stepped on the field. Their record would still be 3-1. They would have a 500 record without the offense ever taking the field because of how good that defense is. That's how many points the defense alone has scored. I got to give Darnold a break there. And when you compare the Cowboys defense to the Patriots, they're like incomparable this year. The Patriots are just that much better.
But, you say that, but that Cowboys linebacking core is scary. That linebacking core is scary. Jalen Smith and Landon Vander Esch, those are dogs right there. So yeah, but yeah, Sam Darnold looked terrible. What do you got?
For my clown of the day, I'm gonna have to go with a guy that hits close to home for you, Graham, because your team just had a huge collapse, as expected. They won game 1 of the ALCS. Everything went downhill from there, as I pretty much expected. And I'm going to put the majority of the blame on a guy making all the money on the team, the guy who eats up all the salary. And the reality of the situation is the reason the Yankees got to the point that they were is because of the little guys, the guys making no money who made a name for themselves this year. And I think Giancarlo Stanton is the biggest disappointment in baseball. And if I'm a Yankees fan, I'm putting the majority of the blame on him.
Oh, no doubt. This is the first time I've ever agreed with something like this. Um, that's why baseball needs a salary cap. Like all these players are requesting 13-year deals, but they're not going to be good for 13 years. It just doesn't happen in sports. Unless you're Derek Jeter, it doesn't happen in sports. And um, baseball, for some reason, John Carlo just proves day in and day out that like we are becoming way too reliable on the home run.
Oh,
He hits one home run every 4 games, and we just forget about the piss poor performances that we've been seeing. And speaking of baseball, you just really triggered me. This playoffs, has been insane, dude. Like,
it's been wild. And I think what you said like speaks to a huge point that a lot of people are missing out on when it comes to building their rosters in Major League Baseball, which is you can hit all the home runs you want. You can have all these guys that are now dropping 50 bombs in the juice ball era. But if you don't have relief pitching, you don't have that can match up against any team in the final 3 innings of a game. And you don't have guys who can hit the ball the other way and find the holes and manufacture runs. Come playoff time, you're not going to make it the distance. You can't win every game with a swing or miss mentality. And the Nationals, they just hit the ball. They put the ball in play. That's what's gotten them to this point. I mean, look at the Dodgers, for example. They dominated the regular season, and I mean, there's people that probably put their life savings on them to at least win the NL, and they got bounced by the Nationals, a Bryce Harper-less Nationals who don't have a mainstream star. Anthony Rendon is one of the quietest Hall of Fame superstars to ever exist in sports because he's not a flashy guy. He's not going to drop 50 bombs a year. He's just going to hit 330 and hit 35 bombs, but that's the kind of guy that's going to bring you to a World Series.
And people forget that I'm going to touch up on him later in the show, but Juan Soto is really the reason why they're here. Well, not really Juan Soto. The Braves right fielder is the reason the Nationals are here. Because that hit off Josh Hader should have been a single, and it turned into a base-clearing triple. So, that just goes to show baseball, a lot of things can happen. But speaking about this playoffs and the rest of the World Series, my viewpoint on this is the exact thing that happened in 2015, but with the National League. The Kansas City Royals were not the best team in the American League or the baseball, league at all. But they had guys like Butler. They had guys like Hosmer, Moustakas. They had all these guys who made a name for themselves in one year. And they had Ned Yost. And I think you're starting to see that with the Nationals is, they have a bunch of guys. It's not just one guy. And I think they got rid of Harper and the chemistry started to come together. Ryan Zimmerman hit the first home run in Nationals World Series history. And he was the first player drafted in Nationals history. And I thought that was extremely cool. They did what every team couldn't do, and that's beat Garrett Cole. So my prediction for the rest of the World Series is Nationals in 6. All right? The Astros are going to come back fighting, but this Nationals team is way too hot to stop, Mark. You?
I agree. I think the difference is that the Astros have already played 2 games at home, and they've already lost 2 games at home. And I think if they had like so much as just split the first 2 games, the Astros are running away with this. But to lose 2 games at home, now you got to go to Washington for 3. You go to Washington for 3, and then you have to take at least 2 of those games in Washington to then come back to Houston and close it out. Like I just don't see it happening. They're fighting an uphill battle too because your biggest strength is your pitching. And the Astros are the only team in baseball that can compete with that. Or sorry, your biggest strength is pitching for the Astros, and the only team that can compete with that is the Nationals, who run three deep, not just two. I
But
just think with Zach Greinke pitching the way he is too, like that's not somebody you want to put on the hill.
and um, I'm not doubting the Astros by any bottom to top, they had the best lineup other than the Yankees. Altuve, Correa, Bregman, Springer, Alvarez, Gurriel. That's six guys right there. I haven't even named the rest of their team. This is just one of those teams that you really can't cat out. But at the same time, like when they're not sound, they're really not sound. And when the Nationals are on fire like they've been, you can't stop them. So I'm going to lay this argument to rest. I think we've both come to an agreement here that the Houston Astros will not win the World Series this year.
I'm not counting it out completely, but
Oh,
I'll give you if you want my prediction, I'll say the Nationals in 7.
okay. So you think the Nationals are going to take Game 7 in Houston?
Yeah, I think you're going to be
That
in a situation where they'll pull out all the stops, which
I'm writing
means
that down.
could be seeing Scherzer, Strasburg, Corbin, Doolittle. You could see any pitcher in that game, and that I'm taking their pitching over the Astros. Yeah,
If the Nationals to make this Game 7, I do not know. That's
that
why I say 6.
okay.
All
I'll give
right.
you fair enough.
So let's move on to the season that we've all been waiting for. No, I'm not talking about Christmas or Halloween. I'm talking about the NBA. We're back. We had the nice Battle of LA to start the season. Great game. Really great game. A Paul George's Clippers beating the Lakers by 10. I thought that was a great way to start off the year.
Mhm.
And speaking of new, Mark and I are going to list our top 3 acquisitions that we think are going to immediately make a difference. So, Mark, if you want to start and give us your number 3.
Number 3, I'm gonna go. I didn't like the move when they made it in the offseason, but I think it's obvious now that they knew what was coming, which was that Klay Thompson would be out for the year. And they saw the sign and trade opportunity with Kevin Durant. They were going to lose him for absolutely nothing. So they said, hey, if he's going to go to the Nets, why not sign Durant, trade him for D'Angelo Russell? They did the sign and trade. And having D'Angelo Russell now next to Steph Curry makes that an interesting team. I don't think this is the Warriors' year by any means. They're going to be, I'll give you like maybe a 4 or 5 seed.
In the West, that's really good.
I like the Nuggets better than them. I like the Trailblazers. I like the Clippers, and I like the Lakers, all better than them. So, but I think in terms of difference maker, that he makes the Warriors go from an 8 seed to a 5 seed. And that I really think they were looking at like a borderline playoff team if they hadn't made that move with no Klay Thompson for the year. Steph Curry could end up putting together an MVP season if he does what he's done throughout his career with no Klay, no Durant, and somehow leads them to say like a 2 seed. He could be looking at an MVP, but I think D'Lo is going to be a huge difference maker. I'll say he'll be an all-star, maybe even like a second team all NBA. So I look for him to make a big impact. Number 2, I'm going to go with Paul George. I think Kawhi is obviously the star of that team, but don't be surprised if Paul George kind of takes over that spotlight. He has quickly turned into a top 5 player in basketball, and he's a two-way player, great defensively. That team is going to dominate defensively with both of them. I just think, like, pure shooting wise, pure scoring wise, Paul George might just be the guy that has the ball in the final minutes of games for that team. I wouldn't be surprised. I think the Clippers are going to have the best record in basketball this year, better than the Lakers. We're going to debate that in a little bit. But I have Paul George as my number 2. Number 1, a little biased here, but watched the Sixers-Celtics game last night, and I think Al Horford is going to be the biggest difference maker in basketball this year, based on the offseason, because of the fact that they took him from the Celtics, their biggest rival. You saw it last night. We beat them by double digits, and that's a team we always have trouble with, and it was because of Al Horford. Now he's on our side. Twin Towers, defensively, try getting in the paint against him and Embiid. And the other thing is just the fact that we have somebody who can spell Embiid who has endurance problems. Like, let's be real. He struggles to stay on the court. He gets tired easily. He's a big guy. Now he comes out of the game, you can keep Al Horford in and really not set your team back that much. I mean, last year when Embiid came out of a game, we had nobody to put in for him, and teams would erase 10-point deficits in no time against us when Embiid wasn't on the court. So those are my three. Let's hear yours, Graham.
So, I had a list before the show, and I've just been thinking, and I decided to do something a little bit different for my number three. I said the package that the Lakers sent the Pelicans at my number three. Ingram, Ball, Hart. Those are just three guys off the bat. Those guys, Josh Hart had a double-double last night. Lonzo had over 10. Lonzo's a great passer. Ingram led in scoring with 22. And they played the Raptors down to the wire. The Pelicans have 22 nationally televised games this year for this reason. They have a young package. They have J.J. Redick. They have Zion Williamson. And they have an organization that really is investing in this team. So that's why I think that this is going to make the biggest turnaround. And you have Drew Holiday. You forget about him. He's an all-star point guard. Number two, Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook is going to take this Houston offense, Mark, and he's going to do something with it that James Harden was never able to do, and that's get to the basket and toss it out. You have the most athletic point guard in NBA history in Russell Westbrook. He gets to the hole at will. You have two shooters in Eric Gordon and James Harden waiting on the three-point line, because the second Westbrook goes in, that defense is going to collapse. He's going to throw it out, and Mike D'Antoni's an offensive-minded genius. This team could not be set up better for success this year. Number one, Kawhi Leonard. The dude's a freak. The dude is an actual cyborg. 30 points without Paul George. Beats a team with Danny Green shooting 7 for 9 on the three. Anthony Davis dropped 20. LeBron dropped 20. Kawhi dropped 30. And their bench outscored the Lakers, 60-15? Kawhi Leonard is going to change the Clippers organization. And that leads me to my next point. Kawhi's good, but I don't see the Clippers taking the season series versus the Lakers. I just don't. I see an opening night. I don't see them taking the series.
Really?
Yeah. It just, to me, Kawhi's good, and this Clippers team is really good. But, this Clippers team also has better chemistry. They've been playing for a long, long together. The Lakers have a whole new group of guys. Whole new group of guys. It's going to take a minute. But if you're going to tell me a team with Anthony Davis, LeBron James, who really only the Clippers can cover one of those guys. There is no one on the Clippers that can match up with Anthony Davis. If you think Montrezl Harrell is going to match up with Anthony Davis, Mark, you need to see help.
Don't sleep on Montrezl Harrell. He is one of the best defensive young guys in the league. And, I just said I think the Sixers are going to be one of the best defensive teams in the league, but the Clippers are the best defensive team in the league. And I
100%.
think being able to match up the way they do with LeBron, and you could even at times, I wouldn't be shocked if you see Paul George on LeBron and Kawhi on Anthony Davis. That's something that could happen. And I just think depth-wise, the Clippers are ridiculous. Obviously Anthony Davis and LeBron are a great fit, but the Lakers banked so much on getting Kawhi Leonard that the rest of their roster is really built around scraps. They scrapped. Danny Green is not a scrap. That was a great addition, but the rest of it, I just felt like they pieced together something that didn't make a lot of sense. And I think the Clippers, the reason Kawhi wants to go there, the reason Paul George wanted to go there, is their young talent, their bench, their depth is phenomenal. Like Landry Shamet is going to be an upcoming stud. He's in their starting lineup. You have Pat Bev. You have Lou Williams off the bench, who's won how many Sixth Man of the Year awards? Like, I just the depth of the Clippers is ridiculous. And then with their top two stars, they're neck and neck with the Lakers. But I think the depth is where the difference maker is. And I really think the Clippers are going to dominate the West. They're going to get the 1 seed. They're going to dominate the season series, in my opinion. And one thing that I was surprised about, did you see the Staples Center the other night? The LeBron chants and the Kawhi boos. Like, is that something we're going to see all year long?
Yeah, it's really interesting because never were the Clippers, it's sort of like what's happening in New York with the Brooklyn Nets and the New York Knicks. It's like, okay, the Knicks are New York's team, but Brooklyn's better. Like, what's going to happen? That's sort of what's happening in LA. It was never, oh my God, this is Clipper Town. Like, nah, that's LA. That is the Lakers team. And it's a shame that the Clippers have to share the Staples Center with them because it's going to be it's just what it is. Like, the Clippers are a new organization. They don't have a history of championships. They haven't built up fan loyalty yet. Donald Sterling ruined that team. But Steve Ballmer has been doing a great job. So credit to Steve Ballmer, one of the best owners in the NBA.
He is, wow. He is
taking an organization that was filled with just disgusting hatred and bringing a light to everything. I think that shows a lot about that organization. But the Lakers are going to win a title this year. They just don't have, the Clippers just don't have what it takes to defend Anthony Davis, and I really don't think that they do. But yeah, so that's the Battle of LA, and damn, we are flying through the sports today, all different sports. That's why we love Mark and Graham. We're going to talk about NFL right now, and we're going to make some live picks for you guys. So, Mark, you ready to make some picks for for this week, actually, for tonight? Huh.
Yeah, I mean, we can go through the NFL picks, or you want to do that first, or we can talk about some disappointments before we get to that.
Oh yeah, all right. Yeah, the NFL has been filled with a lot of disappointments, and I'll let Mark start, but I can think of two teams off the top of my head. Just because the NFL season has just not gone the way we've seen. There's been a lot of bad calls. There's been a lot of questionable plays. Mark, most disappointing team. Who do you got?
My Philadelphia Eagles.
Sad.
I just can't believe it. I mean, it wasn't. I think they're going to be good every year because I'm obviously a Birds fan, but this season was different. Like, every single analyst was picking us to win it all. Like, they were picking us to come out of the NFC. It was everywhere. Like, most talented roster in football and most deep roster in football. And it was like Deshaun Jackson got injured, and like, who would have thought that's the guy that changes the entire course of the season? And it just hasn't been the same since. Like, there's been so many injuries. The secondary is actually Swiss cheese out there. Like, absolutely horrendous. They didn't make a move for Jalen Ramsey like you said they should. And I wasn't all for Jalen Ramsey at the time. And now it's like, how did you not get him? Like, this secondary is ridiculously bad. Orlando Scandrick, who they brought in from Dallas, single-handedly blew the Dallas game. It was almost as if Jerry Jones was still paying him. It's just bad. Like, it's a bad scene right now in Philly. I think a lot of the fan base is just moving towards basketball season, but I haven't given up complete hope. Still hopeful we can hit a hot stretch. I think Carson Wentz is getting a bad rap. He still had a pretty good season. If you watch the Dallas game, like he was under duress the entire game. Didn't have Jason Peters, and the rookie Andre Dillard played terribly. So if he could just get some offensive line help, maybe we can bounce back this season. But I think we're looking at an 8-8, 9-7, maybe even a 7-9 year, which is not at all what we thought going in. Who's your biggest disappointment?
Before we start, it's actually kind of funny. Before the NFL season started, we did a odd man out for who we think is going to win the Super Bowl, and Mark's number one was the Eagles, and I had to bring that up. But this team was also on my list. Anthony Lynn's San Diego Chargers. I was riding on the Chargers this season. Like I love their team, top to bottom. Derwin James, Melvin Ingram, Joey Bosa, Phillip Rivers, Austin Eckler, Melvin Gordon, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. The talent is there. The defense is there. The results are not. And, the move to San Diego was the dumbest move I've ever seen in pro football history.
LA, you mean?
Other than moving the Oakland Raiders to Vegas, that's about to happen. That's going to be the next dumbest move of all time. We'll talk about that later. San Diego Chargers are underperforming. Their roster is way too good. Like, way too good. Their head coach is way too good. And I don't even need to touch base on this because I feel like it's very self-explanatory. You look at the talent on this roster, they do not look like a 2-5 team.
No, but I think without a doubt, you got to point towards Melvin Gordon's holdout as the distraction that ruined this team's season.
But they have Eckler.
But it doesn't matter when you have a guy like Melvin Gordon who is your heart and soul, and he is going to hold out like that. It was such a distraction. Every single press conference of training camp was, where's Melvin Gordon? When's he coming back? Anthony Lynn gets on stage. Where's Melvin Gordon? When's he coming back? What are you going to do when he comes back? Is it Eckler? Is it Gordon? Like, now you have them trying to split carries between a guy who's trying to get a max contract and a guy who went undrafted in Eckler. Like, it's a huge distraction from a team that has all the talent in the world. And I think this offseason they need to figure it out. Like, Gordon's either got to go and you move on with Eckler and you're still a talented team that can easily make a playoff run, or you say, Gordon, here's your money and let's roll. And maybe you trade Eckler for some pieces. Some receivers maybe. I don't love their receiver. They got Keenan Allen. But he hasn't been that great this year either.
All right. So next section is our odd man out. And by the way, I totally forgot to mention, but I will be back on the radio tonight, by the way. And I haven't told anyone, but I totally forgot to tell you guys. But I'm telling everyone now. I got my show back for right now. It's in the works, but I'll be on tonight with my buddy, 9 to 10. It's public radio. You can listen to it. You don't have to, but we got it back, and everything's good so far. But yeah, so now we're gonna head to my personal favorite section of the Mark and Graham podcast, on Man Out, and I really love today's section because it's exciting, and we are going to go over the most exciting players in the NFL to watch. Mark, should we start with number one or our odd man out today?
Up to you. You make the call.
All right, let's start with the odd man out today because I like getting more excited the higher I go on the list. So my odd man out, and I have no defensive players on my top 5 just because it's just natural. Offense is just more exciting to watch. Aaron Donald, number 6. The man has turned the defensive tackle position into like a freak of athleticism position. You look at Dexter Lawrence on the Giants. The dude plays 40% of the plays, but he's good. Aaron Donald plays almost 90% of the defensive plays. He had almost 22 sacks last season, Mark? Yeah. Aaron Donald's unbelievable. I've never seen a defensive lineman, an inside defensive lineman, have to be worried about so much on runs outside the tackle box. Aaron Donald, by far, is the best and most exciting defensive player to watch, but not in general. Mark, you want to give me your odd man out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be a little biased here again, but I'm still gonna put Carson Wentz as my sixth. I think I'm just time and time again this season, even in losses, he is an exciting player to watch. There's nobody that can escape a pocket, escape would-be tacklers the way that Wentz does. He's elusive. He is so hard to bring down, and if anything, that's his biggest flaw is that he is too tough. He's too aggressive, and that's why he takes the hits that he does and gets injured. But those plays are still there. He keeps the play alive. Always, he gets out of the pocket. He's elusive. Carson Wentz is just my guy in that regard. I think the number 4 guy on my list is who he's built his career based off of. The idea of not being able to get brought down in the pocket. I'll get to him later, but I think that's really what makes a quarterback exciting to watch is their ability to just get out of the pocket and avoid sacks and still get the ball downfield.
All right. So I'm going to start at number 5. At number 5, just coming back from a broken clavicle, first game back, this little man mossed the living hell out of someone. I'm talking about the cheetah, Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, every time he scores a touchdown, it's, oh, Tyreek Hill, what a play. The man is unbelievable. He is the most dangerous vertical threat in the NFL. He is one of the most athletic wide receivers in the NFL, and he's constantly making crazy plays. Number 4, Kermit the Frog. You got it, Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes took a step back from last year, still a magnificent quarterback. And I think he's starting to learn that you can't just be all flashy to be good, but he's learning to do both. And Patrick Mahomes is consistently doing something that makes me turn my head and say, wow, did he really just do that? And I think that's what makes an exciting player an exciting player. That's why my number 3 is Mr. I don't drop passes, DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins has made more crazy catches in the past 2 years than I've ever seen. I think he's one of the best wide receivers. And for someone who hasn't had a consistent quarterback since he was drafted and just got one with Deshaun Watson and still manages to put up the numbers he does, that's unbelievable. That's unheard of. When you don't have consistency at a quarterback position, you don't really get that chemistry, and that really doesn't seem to bother him. So before I start my 1 and 2, Mark, let's hear your 5, 4, 3.
Number 5, I have the guy who I think right now is your MVP. And no, it's not Mahomes, even though I have Mahomes higher on my list than him. But it's somebody that I used to give a really hard time to. I used to say he was overrated. I never liked the pure passer that he was, but this year it's like he's really showing me that he's legit. Russell Wilson. The guy is, for his size, to do what he does is ridiculous. That team is not all that talented. Their receivers aren't great. They're little guys who somehow find a way to get open, and Russell Wilson makes plays with his feet, gives them time to get open. That team has no business being as good as they are, and Russell Wilson is the main reason for that. My number 4 is the one that I said Wentz built his resume off of, and that's Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers showed it last week. Guy went off for 6 total touchdowns, one shy of the NFL record. He is phenomenal. He's the best quarterback I've seen in my lifetime, pure talent-wise. I think he's more impressive to watch than Tom Brady, even though Tom Brady's got the rings. Rodgers just finds receivers like nobody else can, and like I said, he escapes the pocket. He avoids would-be tacklers and always can find a way out of a sack. Tom Brady can't do that same way. Rodgers has just really impressed me this year, and he's done it without Devontae Adams, his number one weapon. It's Aaron Jones has been everything for that team.
Everything.
And did you give your number three?
Oh, yes, I did.
My number three is, and I think I could make a case for him as number one. There's nobody I love watching play more than Christian McCaffrey right now. The guy is ridiculous. He's a wide receiver playing running back. The amount of passes that he catches out of the backfield, the amount of tackles that he shakes, he's so elusive, quick. He scores like 2 to 3 touchdowns a game. It's been, and he's playing with Kyle Allen right now, who I'll tell you right now, I think Kyle Allen is the future of the Panthers. Cam Newton, I think, is heading down like I'm not gonna. I think he's heading down like a Robert Griffin, Colin Kaepernick minus the kneeling for the national anthem. He will be out of the NFL soon. Cam Newton's a bum.
I'm gonna make a bold prediction right now. Cam Newton's gonna be a Denver Bronco.
That's interesting. Team that he lost to in the Super Bowl.
Cam Newton's gonna be a Denver Bronco, man. They are gonna trade him. The Broncos need a quarterback.
Yeah,
they are. John Elway is fighting for his job right now.
I just don't know that anybody wants Cam Newton. I think he is such a liability. His personality is god awful, and it's a terrible combination. It's a combination of a guy who has a bad personality and is a bad leader to go along with a guy who is a running quarterback who doesn't protect his body whatsoever and he constantly gets injured. So why would you want that on your team? I mean, you're not going to trade anything of value for a guy like that isn't even going to stay on the field. I just don't think he'll ever win anything.
So I'm going to give my 2-1. Before I say that, Cam Newton's Super Bowl 50 performance was one of the most horrible, like the amount of effort he gave during that game was like disgusting. Like DeMarcus Ware or Von Miller fumbles, like hits the ball out of his hands and he looks at it. Doesn't even jump on top of it, just looks at it. Cam, ever since that game, I have hated Cam Newton.
That's him or Jared Goff?
Huh?
Jared Goff's Super Bowl 53 performance was probably the worst thing I ever saw.
Nah, Bill Belichick's Super Bowl 53 performance was unreal. That's what it was. Okay, number 2, you already touched on him, Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is doing things that a man his size and on a roster of his talent should not be doing. He has led a team to 5-2, and this team's number 1 wide receiver is Tyler Lockett. You know? And it's just Russell Wilson plays like Jesus Christ is on his side. Like I don't know how to explain it. He makes throws and plays that you just don't see and you don't get it. He might be the best 3rd-round pick of all time. Mm-hmm. He is so good. Everyone passed up on him because of his hype. Kyler Murray, I bet you he becomes Russell Wilson. I see Kyler Murray being a little bit quicker than Russell, but the exact same style.
I can see that.
All right, number 1, I'm going to be a little biased here. Saquon Barkley. Mark could even attest to this. You just don't know what he's going to do every play. He could run to a clogged up hole and break a 65-yard run. His legs are ginormous. His body is ginormous, and he's a great player. He's so talented. And the Giants have never had a great running back since, the Brandon Jacobs and Ahmad Bradshaw days. And I'm okay that we passed up on the ghosts seeing Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen and Baker Mayfield because those guys are just turning out not to be that good. And I'm happy with where we are. So, yeah, Saquon Barkley, there you go. Most exciting player in the NFL to watch. Mark?
Saquon isn't on my list, even as an Eagles fan, normally he would be 1 or 2 on mine. But I just, because of the injury, I kind of am taking him off because he hasn't really played much this year. But he's electric. I would do anything to have him on my team. But number 2, I'm going to go a guy you already mentioned, but my only defensive player on the list, Aaron Donald, he's a physical freak. Like, actually, I've never seen a defensive lineman dominate the game the way he does. He changes everything for that team, for that defense. He single-handedly can stop the run by himself. And the way that he does it, he's not really a defensive end. He often comes from up the middle, and that's the hardest thing to do because you have 3 down linemen in the center of your line as opposed to just dealing with a tackle. He oftentimes has to break through 2 blockers or even 3 when there's a fullback or a running back there. I just think Aaron Donald is so dominant. I remember I watched on First Take, in the middle of the summer when they have nothing to talk about and they just come up with these crazy topics on that show. One of the topics was who in the NFL is the closest player to Michael Jordan. And somebody was arguing Tom Brady. The other, I think Stephen A. said Tom Brady or Kellerman said Tom Brady, and Stephen A. said Aaron Donald. And I really think that there's a case there. Aaron Donald is that much better than every other defensive player that it's probably the closest thing to the way Michael Jordan was that much better than every other basketball player. So that's my number 2. And then number 1, exciting to watch. There's nobody that is more fun to watch right now than Patrick Mahomes. The throws that he makes no-look passes. The NFL has never seen that before. It's just a matter of time before he throws a pass behind his back. It's actually ridiculous. Throw the length of the football field. The NFL has never seen that. He has weapons that make him more fun to watch, like Tyreek Hill. There's nobody as fast as him in the league. So you kind of just watch Mahomes throw up these deep balls that he knows aren't going to ever get intercepted because he puts them so far out of reach that the only player who can possibly track them down is Tyreek Hill. He just has a perfect situation right now in Kansas City. Andy Reid's the perfect coach for him. He's quarterback friendly. I just think Mahomes is the most fun guy to watch. Every time the Chiefs are on prime time, it's a game it's must-see television. I always want to watch it. The best football game we've seen in the past 5 years was because of him. It was Rams, Chiefs, Monday Night Football last year. We're only going to continue to see great games out of him, and it's really fun to watch.
So before we get to our Mark and Graham of the day to wrap things up, I have a list pulled up of all the games, and me and Mark are going to run through real quick, and we're just going to tell you who we think is a lock and who we think is going to win. So Mark, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Redskins, Vikings, terrible game. I'm just going to say Vikings.
And definitely the Vikings. The Redskins are a mess right now. No quarterback.
Seahawks versus Falcons.
Once again, Seahawks. The Falcons are a mess. Did you see what
mess?
You see what Julio Jones said? He gave a locker room speech with you guys gotta start playing for each other because right now the coach is Dan Quinn's gonna get fired. Sanu just left. They're in rebuild mode.
Next game. To me, this is a toss-up because I just don't trust this 5-1 team. Eagles, Bills. I'm going to go Eagles. I think they're going to have a rebound game. I just don't see the Bills having this long-term success.
I really like the Bills, but I'm gonna go with you there. I think the Eagles will bounce back. It's just typical Eagles fashion to get smoked by the Cowboys and then come back, and now they're gonna dominate the Bills. So makes no sense, but that's the Eagles for you.
Another game where the records don't really reflect. Chargers, Bears.
Where is that game?
The game is, let's see. It is in Chicago.
Definitely the Bears then for that reason. You got a team from LA coming to Chicago. It's starting to get cold. Bears will win that and literally send the Chargers home packing because their season is over if they lose that.
Rams, Bengals, Rams.
Yeah, definitely the Rams. Bengals are horrible. Time to move on from Dalton.
Another toss-up. The New York Giants versus the Lions.
Definitely the Lions. The Lions have been rolling this year. I really like what Stafford's doing.
Yeah, rolling. Yeah, they're 2-3.
I like what
rolling.
They're doing.
Rolling.
Their defense is bad, but they'll beat the Giants.
Colts Broncos.
Colts.
I'm a
Brissett,
big Colts guy.
dude. Brissett. We've talked about him a lot on this podcast. Brissett is the real deal.
The real deal. Buccaneers Titans.
Titans. Now that they have Tannehill.
Really?
Tannehill's the difference, dude. He played well last week. That guy is slept on like no other. And
He played for the Dolphins.
I told you going into the season, Mariota would not last half the season there. Tannehill's the guy.
All right. Another great game. Cardinals Saints. The Cardinals, for being 3-3-1, I mean, that's pretty impressive considering they were supposed to be the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah, it speaks to Kyler Murray for sure. And honestly, Cliff Kingsbury, like the guy looks like a GQ model, but like he's actually been performing pretty well for them. I can't lie.
All right, but I definitely think the Saints are going to win.
Yeah, the Saints. Drew Brees is still questionable, I believe. If I had to guess, because it's the Cardinals, they're probably going to go with Bridgewater, keep Brees out one more week. But Bridgewater's just been winning lately. He hasn't been playing that well, but he's doing.
All right. Next question. Panthers versus the 49ers.
Niners still undefeated. Where is that game?
I think it's in San Francisco.
Yeah, then I'll go San Fran. If it was in Carolina, I might think about it. Kyle Allen, that could be his coming out game. But that Niners defense is very, very good. And don't forget now they have Tevin Coleman, who is back healthy. That is a number one running back if I've ever seen.
And Emmanuel Sanders.
I forgot about that. It's another big move they made.
All right, another game that I think the Browns could steal. Browns versus the Patriots.
God, no. The Patriots will absolutely roll over them. Baker Mayfield.
I don't know.
Baker Mayfield is horrible, bro. And he's fat. He got fat. He is out of shape. I cannot stand that guy, man. He is so overrated and does not care about his NFL career. I'll be the first one to say that.
All right. Next game. Raiders versus Texans. Another good game.
Texans. I think the Texans are playing very good football right now, all around. Watson's a top 3 MVP candidate, and I think that's a team. That's one of the very few teams that can give the Patriots a run in the AFC.
100%. Another team where being 4-3 doesn't really reflect the talent on the squad, and I think it only is going to take time. This, I think, is the game of the week. Packers versus the Chiefs.
Definitely game of the week. It's a lot of people's Super Bowl picks right now, actually. But I think Mahomes is probably ruled out, right? I think he's probably not going to play, so I'm going to go with the Packers. But if Mahomes plays, it's probably the Chiefs, in my opinion.
Yeah, you know what? Matt LaFleur is a goddamn genius. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, the worst game of the week happens to be the last game of the week. Dolphins versus Steelers. Dolphins 25-0. I mean, Steelers 25-0.
God, it's not even the Steelers aren't even good. It's just the Dolphins are that bad. Definitely, I'll go with the Steelers, but I don't like them either.
Well, there you go. Those are our picks for the week. Rewatch this episode. If you're going to place any bets, I definitely suggest you do. We are going to hit our Graham and Mark of the day. Mark, who do you got?
The new head coach of your Philadelphia Phillies. I know you know him pretty well, and I'm curious to hear your opinion, but I'm very excited that Joe Girardi is our next. Thank God Gabe Kapler is gone. He was the most frustrating and infuriating coach I've ever seen in the history of Philadelphia sports. I couldn't stand the guy. At least Girardi is going to give us some honesty, and he's going to put the players in their place. I think he's a great fit for Bryce Harper too. Their like personalities, I think, kind of work with each other. They're both like intense guys, and I don't think I think you can attest to this too. Like Girardi didn't get bounced out of New York because he was a bad coach. It was just one of those cases where
Didn't work.
the time was up, and the Yankees were so good for so long, and then kind of hit like they stalled out for a little. And I think the easiest way to transition to that new group of players was to just get a fresh face, a younger guy in Aaron Boone, who is a great choice for managing them. But Girardi wasn't done. Like I think he's a guy that still has a lot to give, and now he's going to be coaching a more of a veteran team in the Phillies, which is what he needs.
The thing with Girardi is that he needs full control, and with the Yankees, it's the manager and Brian Cashman.
Yeah.
That's why Aaron Boone is doing so well, because he works with Cashman. Girardi just never got along with Brian Cashman, and it just, like you said, the time was up. Like, thank you, we won a World Series with you, and that's it. No hard feelings. And the thing is, I think you're right. I think you need I think you need an ex World Series champion to coach players like Bryce Harper. That's why the teams with the ex players are doing so well. And that's why I think the Cubs hiring David Ross, who caught that final game when they won the World Series, I think that was a phenomenal hire. That might have been the hire of the day. I'm not kidding. I love the David Ross hire. But I also love the Joe Girardi hire.
And you know what? What do they both have in common? Which almost, if I'm a GM and I'm hiring a coach in Major League Baseball, every single one of them, I'm getting a former catcher. Girardi, David Ross, both former catchers. They see the whole field when they play, and not even that, but like a lot of times, backup catchers are the best head coaches because you manage the entire game already from that position every time you're out there.
So, my Graham of the day, I spoke a little about him earlier, is the 20-year-old coming out of the Washington Nationals, Juan Soto, hitting his first World Series home run off Garrett Cole at the age of 20 years and 116 days. The fifth youngest player to ever home run a World Series game. Had 4 RBIs. He sent the Nationals to the divisional round from the wild card round. Juan Soto is the future of baseball and is the future of this National League team. The second Bryce Harper leaves, another star emerges. It's how it works. So Juan Soto, you get my Graham of the day. Mark, you have anything you want to say before we wrap things up?
No, Juan Soto, a final thought on him. I'm so impressed by what that kid has done at the age. I mean, he's our age and he's doing what he is out there. It's ridiculous. And to fill the shoes of Bryce Harper the way he has, I think he's going to win a World Series this year for that team. And I'll just say it again, Nationals in 7, you have Nationals in 6, but that's my final prediction for the World Series.
I love that. I think, if it feels good to be back. Our next show is Week 10. I'm not going to tell you what's going to happen Week 10, but we have a longer show planned with guests, and it's going to be a great time. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter at @MarkandGraham_podcast. Hit us up. Send us DMs. Let us know what you guys want to hear because we want to give you guys some good content. It was good to be back. And we will see you guys next week. Remember, again, Instagram, Twitter, at @MarkandGraham_podcast. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
All right. See you guys.